Okay, so here's your homework for today. See if I can see the geometric sequences worksheet, but we're only going to do the front side. Okay, so at this time, I want you to clear your desks of everything or kind of scoot the cutting away. We're going to work on that on Monday. And I need you guys to get out a marker, and you're going to write on your desks again. And I want you to write the explicit formula for this one. Actually, we're going to do the explicit and the recursive. So I'm going to give you a moment. If you're listening at home, you're going to want to pause your recording. Okay, if you're a little bit stumped, I'm going to go ahead and write your explicit and recursive formulas up here for you. So the explicit is a sub n equals my first term plus my common difference times n minus 1. And my recursive is a sub n again. This time I don't have the a sub 1. This one doesn't include that one. But I do have my previous term, and I'm going to add the common difference to it. So try and use these two formulas for this scenario right here. Okay, so the explicit formula for this scenario is if I am to find some term, this is some term, I have to add 5 to the previous term. So I'm going to add 5 to the previous term. And then this piece of information says the first term is 10. My first term is 10. The recursive is to find some term. They both have find some term. Add 5 to the previous term. So I have the previous term, and I'm going to add 5. Okay, you want to try another one? Okay, so you have these formulas in front of you, and we're going to try another one. Okay, so Philip just had a really good question. He said, why do they call it D? And I said, well, they call the common difference D because the difference between the terms we have to add, and when we find the difference between something, so the difference between something, they call it D. Today we're going to learn when we multiply, we call it R, and that's the ratio. So like if I was multiplying by 2, we could say I'm multiplying by 2, because if I was going to make it smaller by 2, I would say I'm going to make it smaller by saying half. See why they called this one the ratio? And this one would be called the difference? Does that make sense? Kind of a little bit? All right, let's erase that. And let me show the explicit and the recursive. So explicit would be to find some term. They both start, you know what, let's do this one like this. They both start with some term. Then it says, subtract 3 from the previous term. So I'm still on blue. So I'm going to subtract 3 from the previous term. This one is, I'm going to subtract 3 from the previous term. Then explicit is the only one that uses the first term is 7. This one does not use it at all. That's why this one's so limited. Because unless you know what this number is, this one will only give you the next one, right? You can only find the one that it's right next to. and then you could keep going, but it's very, very limited. This one gives you a very important piece. You know where to start. Okay? So this one we try and use more. In fact, in Algebra 2 last year, we did not show them this one at all. Okay? Alrighty. That being said, so today we are going to be able to write the explicit and the recursive rules for the geometric sequence. Yesterday, we did one at a time. Today, we're going to do both of them in the same day. That reminds me. Somebody remind me to record while I'm recording to talk about your quiz on Tuesday, okay? All right, so we're going to do a discovery activity. Can you fill in the missing blanks? So we're talking geometric today. Geometric, we were talking about arithmetic. Arithmetic is either adding or subtracting to get to the next term. So geometric is, class? Multiplying and dividing to get to the next term. Fantastic. So would I multiply or divide to get from 25 all the way over to 1,600? I would multiply because I'm getting bigger. Or I could start with 1,600 and do what? Good. Inverse of multiplication is division. So whichever one you want to do, whether you want to go backwards and divide or whether you want to multiply and go forward, but I need you to figure out what the common ratio is. Go. Recording. So I have a number 64. Is 25 times 64 go here? So could it be 64? No. It's 25 times 64 to get all the way over here. We need just one small jump. And then we're going to take this number and multiply it by that same number, and this number and multiply it by that same number, and then you get to 1,600. So how are you going to do that? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, recording, and the answer is? 4. I could multiply by 4, or I could divide by 4. I probably should have put that in the back. Going backwards. Because 25 times 4 is 100, and 100 times 4 is 400, and 400 times 4 is 1,600. 25 times 4 is 6. Did anybody do these? 6 point what? 6.125? Oh, 6.125. And then 6.25 divided by 4 is? Okay, let's try another one. You guys can do this. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I keep hearing it's 8. So I don't multiply by 8 to get here. I divide by 8, but ratios are when I'm going in this direction, I have to multiply. So I'm not dividing by 8, I'm multiplying by 1/8. Okay, so when I divide by 1/8, I get 8. Then when I multiply by 1/8 again, I get 1. So going this way, this is what I get. Okay, so here's my challenge to you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You guys, the noise is getting too high and I'm recording. All right, so this is my challenge to you. This is covering up what I need right here. I'm going to write this formula, the recursive formula, for a geometric sequence, and I need you to fill in the blank. So when we have a formula, like a general formula, it doesn't have numbers given to us, right? It's just a formula. So I can't put numbers in here, but I can put letters. So just like our arithmetic, so when I write the arithmetic recursive, it's a sub n equals the previous, right, plus d. Are there any numbers in there? Other than the 1 right there. And over here, my explicit would be a sub n equals what? A sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. Are there any numbers in there? And there's no values in there. So can you come up with, now remember, d with geometric is now r. So we're going to need an r in these formulas, right? And we're going to need something else that's also in one of these. Can you figure out which one it is based on this sequence that you have right here? You have a sequence, and then in the formula you have certain pieces of that sequence. So you guys discuss it. 3, 2, 1, recording. Did anybody come up with it? Not even one piece? I heard accurate, educated guesses. Anybody? Okay, I'll pull it out of you. All right, so what numbers? We have an 8 and we have 32,768. How do these two things relate? You guys are going to kick yourselves when I tell you. What's this one? What does this stand for? It's the first term. How do I write the first term? A sub 1. Right? Didn't I tell you you're going to kick yourself? Okay. So, I only have 2 more pieces. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Guys. And remember I told you A sub 1 is only in which one of these formulas? Only in explicit. So could I possibly have an A sub 1 over here? No. What's the only other piece of information I've been giving you? R. Got to change my color again. Does that make sense? Is 1/8 the common ratio that you have to multiply each time by? And over here is 1/8. Would you have to multiply the previous term to get the next term? Yes. See how we discovered that on our own? Not really? Not really. Okay. So the next thing I'd like you to... So the next thing I'd like to do with you guys is show you, because I don't know whether you wondered or not, why is it to the n minus 1 as an exponent? Okay? Does anybody think they know? Okay, let's see if we can clear it up. So let's see if I can get you to see the difference. Well, what color do I want to use? Okay, so if I have a first term and then I add, whispering's got to stop, guys. And I add D and I add D and I add D, I get this formula. A sub 1 plus, how many D's? Well, 1 less than all of them put together, right? Because there's 1 less D. Do you see how that comes up now? So let's look at the other one. So if I have A sub 1, and this time I'm going to multiply by R, by R, by R, by R, by R, by R, right? So I'm going to do that to find some number. What do I start with? A sub 1, and what do I do to it? I multiplied it by R. How many times? however many spaces I have minus the first one. Do you see it now? No? On this one, this is a sub 1, a sub 1. How many D's do I have? I have one less because of the first one I started with. Right? Because if I want to, instead of adding them all up, the easier thing to do is to multiply them by how many you have. Isn't that multiplying by how many we have? This one is the same thing. A sub 1, but now I'm multiplying R by how many? How many do I have? I have as many as I have it in front of me minus the first one. So they are in essence the exact same formula. Do you see it? The exact same formula, only I use D for this one because we're finding the difference between the numbers. We're using R for this one because we're multiplying to get to the next number. So that distinguishes between arithmetic and geometric. So whenever you see a D, you say, oh, that's arithmetic. Whether it's recursive or explicit, it doesn't matter. If it's D, it's got to be arithmetic. If it's R, it's got to be geometric because it's multiplying. Okay? They're both, this is raised to the n minus 1, this is multiplied to n minus 1. Okay? All we're going to do on Monday is go between, is it arithmetic, is it geometric, is it recursive, is it explicit? That's what we're doing Monday. Oh, this is the quiz part. Okay, so I need to tell you have a quiz on Tuesday. It's no big deal. It's not a whole period quiz. Probably take about 20 minutes. It's only got 5 questions. One of them is actually explaining something in words, okay, to explain to me about something. And the other questions are basically, can you find the 7th term using the recursive formula? Or find the 19th term using the explicit formula. You will have the formulas in front of you, but I'm not going to tell you which one's explicit, which one's recursive, which one's geometric, and which one's arithmetic. So if you have all the formulas in front of you, how do you know which one to use? What? What? If it has an R or a D, and then what's the other thing that tells me whether it's recursive or explicit? If it has a what? If it has the A sub 1. If it has the A sub 1, what is it? Explicit. Okay, so if you've got to know your formulas, because I can give you all kinds of formulas, but if you don't know how to use them, you can't be successful, right? Okay, so let's move on. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is, on your homework, let's just write the 2 down, because in the other class we got stuck here, and then we ran out of time. So what I want you to do is I want you to write on the top of your paper, recursive, and we're going to write the recursive one. So the recursive one is A sub n equals, does the recursive one have A sub 1? No, right? So all it has is, does it have it? I thought we said it doesn't have A sub 1. It has R times what? Did I even give this one to you guys yet? What does this one have? It has A to the n minus 1. But on this one, we're going to do this. I believe this is what we put on the worksheet. We use this one, which is the same thing. To get to the next one, I need the previous one times R. So make sure that's on the top of your worksheet, please. Recording again. This one's the explicit, and this one is A sub n equals, what do we always have in the explicit? A sub 1 What goes in the parentheses? R to the n minus 1. Copy that one down on your homework. 4, 3, 2, 1, recording. Okay, so I'm going to do the first one. All right, you guys are going to have pencils down and just watching me. Thank you. I love to hear that noise. The first thing I'm going to do is, okay, so do you think this one is the recursive or the explicit? It is explicit. See how it matches? But you should be asking me, well, then where's a sub 1? Half of you are saying 0, half of you are saying 1. 0 times anything is 0. So this should be rewritten a to the n. This sounds a little tricky, right? 1 times 5 to the n minus. It's there, you just can't see it. Okay? Number 2 on homework. Write the first 4 terms of the geometric sequence. That's what the homework question is. Okay, well, I don't want to look at number 2 yet. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I forgot you had it in front of you. I'm like, how do you know which number 2 is? It's covered up. Silly, silly Mrs. Muller. Okay, so, all right, so to find the first term, I actually already know it. What is it? It's already 1. Okay, I shouldn't be asking you guys to interact. Just listen. Okay, so the first term, I already know it. It's 1. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove to you it's 1 by using the formula. So if I want to find the first term, I would use my formula, only I would substitute 1 in for n. Change the color of this one. There's my 1. There's my 1. Well, 1 minus 1 is 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1. All right, second one. 1. R is my common ratio. I'm hearing way too much talking, guys. There's 2. There's 2. All right, so 2 minus 1 is 1. 5 to the first power is 5, and 5 times 1 is 5. Let's check to see if we were correct. So my first term is 1, my second term is 5. My common ratio is 5. So isn't it 1 times 5 is 5? So what's the third term? Do I really need to keep doing my formula? What's 5 times 5? 25, not 10. And what's 25 times 5? 125. Right? Now, if you want to keep doing the formula, feel free. But I would rather, if I know, this is where we start using this formula, right? I know one term. To get to the next one, all I have to do is multiply by r. So you see why you have those formulas? This one gets you started. This one relies on the previous term. We use this formula without using a formula. We just multiply it by r, multiply it by r, multiply it by r. In Algebra 2 last year, we didn't show them this at all. We just did it. Because it's in the standards now, Common Core Standards. Okay, so copy this one down, please. Okay, so normally I would do whiteboards right now, but we're crunched for time, and I want to get you at least one more example, so let's see which one you want. Let's do number 3. Let's do number 3. Okay, let's pull pieces out of this. So what's a sub 1 on this one, class? 2. And what's r? I know, I'm just showing you. We're not doing it. I'm just pulling pieces out of it. I know. I'm not going to do it, you guys. I'm just saying, well, this is always a sub 1. This is always r. I just pull pieces out of it. So let's do this one. A sub 1 is 2. To find the next term, I multiply by 4. So what's r? 4. See how I pulled information out of the formula? Okay, let's repeat it. This tells me what the first term is. A sub 1 is 2. This says to get to the next term, I take the previous term and multiply by 4. That's the recursive formula. I'm not using the recursive formula. I'm just pulling information from it. Make sense? So if I know R is 4, and I know my first term is 2, then my second term is 8, and my third term is 32, and my fourth term is, what's 32 times 4? 128. Okay, get that one down in your notes. Okay, good job. Try over the weekend. Remember, only do the front side. The quiz is on Tuesday. Tutoring begins Monday after school. Have a great day.